Welcome to the Homeownership Podcast presented by Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. This series covers all things real estate and the best practices for buying, selling, and owning properties. Now here's your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to episode 130, Water and Homes. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. This week I want to talk to you about the incredible amount of rain and water we've had this year. Normally by this time we'd be driving around neighborhoods looking at yellow lawns. We'd see all sorts of water bans in effect. Mind you, they did still stick the water ban on us this year. But we'd see all sorts of water bans that make sense in effect, and we'd see all sorts of resources drying up lakes, and rivers. This year I actually bought a house on a pond, and I had a beach in front of it, and by this point in the year I actually have no beach because the water has risen so high that it's all the way against the wall instead of having a beach. What does this mean for your home? What should you be watching for? And what can you do if problems occur? That's what we're going to go over in this podcast to make sure you understand the danger of water in your home and things that you need to do to make sure to keep the place dry and safe from those hidden dangers called mold. So first thing that you want to make sure is that your gutters and downspouts are clear as well as leading away from the home. Clear takes getting up on a ladder and cleaning them out, so if you're not able-bodied to do this, then definitely have a professional by to take a look at it. If you're seeing mud splash up on the front of your home in front where there's gutters above, that usually means they're overflowing. But if you pay attention during a rainstorm, are they flowing normally? If not, you want to contact a professional. The other thing, making sure that they're pitched correctly. If it's an older home and the gutters have sagged over time, this can lead to water building up inside the gutters. On hot days, what this means is when the sun hits that gutter, it heats the water up, basically boiling it out, and then it goes up inside the soffit vents, which are the little vents into your attic, and it condensates on the inside of the plywood. This is something that can cause mold issues in the attic. While I'm not a mold certified professional, there's certain things industry-wide that we understand, and one of them is condensation building up in attics can cause mold because anytime the humidity level hits over 55%, indoor mold growth is going to go on. So we have to be very careful about that. So again, making sure those gutters are pitched in the right direction, making sure they're clear. Usually best bet is to clear them twice. Once in the spring, once in the fall. You definitely want to have them clear before the winter because the other water problem that can come with it is called ice dams. If the water's not flowing out of your gutters correctly, ice dams can build up, and when the ice dams build up, they end up running water backwards underneath the shingles, again causing you either water problems on your ceilings or water problems to the point of mold, which is a terrible thing to get in. Because remember, as soon as the water gets in, the mold is already on its way. If you don't take care of it, the mold will exist because it's what they call omnipresent in the environment, meaning there's spores everywhere. They're just waiting for the perfect growing conditions to get back to growing. And let me tell you, this year, not only has there been a lot of rain, but the air humidity, the relative humidity, has been enormously high. I personally can tell you at my house, I've been running a dehumidifier the entire time. And if it turns off, I can tell you it jumps up as high as 75-80% instantaneously because of the outdoor air right now. If you have the windows open and you're letting in all that air, you're letting in that moisture as well. I recommend when you do get a dehumidifier to get one that's hard plumbed in or to get one with a pump system and to put it somewhere that it can run constantly. Because if we're challenged with constantly emptying the bucket, this means a lot of times it never actually pulls all the humidity out of the air because say we go to work, we get home, the bucket's full, we empty it, we go to bed, we get up, the bucket's full, we empty it. But the problem is all those downtime, all that hours in between don't lead to it running all the time. So that dehumidifier is a very important item, especially in basements. New England is a very wet place. We're constantly dealing with water. We have wet ground, we have wet air, we have wet everything. So making sure you're taking care of your home is big. The other thing I mentioned on the gutters is the downspouts. So a lot of people's downspouts lead directly down to the ground and just let it out there. You want to make sure that that water is moving multiple feet away from your foundation and that the outside soil grade leads away from the foundation. Letting water pile up against the backside of your foundation is a great way to end up finding a leak, to have a place where seepage exists, or just to add humidity to the air inside the basement as it seeps through the concrete walls. Concrete tends to be porous, gets older, it has some cracks in it. That water can build up back there, leading to problems and leading to you having a more damp basement. So again, get those downspouts, get them far away from the homes. If you're seeing a lot of ponding and puddling in your yard, maybe you end up having dry wells installed. Dry wells are basically a space underground where the water from the downspout or from a drain goes, and it goes down into like a rock bed, and that allows it to percolate, otherwise known as sink into the soil, which helps deal with that surface water and get the water out of there and get it moving off your property in a fashion that it doesn't end up inside of your basement or other places. So remember, allowing the air humidity to rise above 55% can lead to indoor mold growth. Be careful to always keep your air between 30 to 50% to keep your home safe. Depending on your medical, sometimes keeping it too dry could hurt your nose, could hurt your lips, your skin can get dry, but you do need to make sure you keep it within that range. That way there you can ensure that you're not going to start growing mold, say behind wet towels from showers and other places that moisture builds up. And also remember, when water intrudes your home, it's crucial to get it dry right away. Even a day or two wet can lead to mold damage. A lot of people take it lightly. Water comes in, they throw a towel on it, they walk away, they come back a few days later and pick it up and like, ooh, that towel is smelly. Well, you're culturing mold and you're going to end up with issues. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you dry it quickly. You want to make sure you get airflow. And then you want to make sure that you get the dehumidifier in there, sucking down that relative humidity. That way there we have the correct relative humidity to not enable mold to grow. And when you do end up with water issues and you do end up with something questionable, it's really important to remember that it's something that needs to be taken care of in a much better manner than just something simple like a towel. So when water issues hit, it's important to hire professionals. Remember, it's one thing to remediate the mold, but it's another thing to find out what the issue is. So we get water. First thing people want to do is dry it up, get rid of the mold. But the problem is drying it up and get rid of the mold doesn't get rid of why the water came in the first place. So whether it be that the roof needs repair, it be that the gutters are tilted wrong, it be that the windows are leaking, it be that the siding is off, it be that the grade of the soil is wrong, we need to find out what is the condition in this environment that caused that, because otherwise all we're doing is fixing and then going back to the same spot and then fixing and going back to the same spot. The bigger issue would be if we have a larger storm and we have that intrusion already, what happens when it really shows up? Whether it be a sump pump failure or any of these things that could be possibly wrong, we want to make sure to take care of them. So that's another thing you want to think about when it comes to water is French drains and sump pumps. French drains being a system that goes around the inside or outside edge of the foundation, having gravel in it and leading the water away from the home or leading the water to a central point where it can be pumped out of the home. Sump pumps are a great device to take water out from the soil and usually to stop water intrusion in the idea of infiltration and the idea of it actually coming up from ground level water. So usually a sump pump sits lower than the basement and pumps the water out before it becomes the height of the basement and gets it away from there. When you do have a sump pump, you want to have it hard piped in or hard plumbed in, depending on the way you say it, but you want to make sure that sump pump leads far away from the home and that you're not just pumping it out the side of the foundation, letting it run down the foundation and pumping it out again. Some pumps will run all the time, other ones will run some of the time. If you have a sump pump, you want to think about, do I need a generator? Because if you have a sump pump and you don't have a generator, then you should at least have a battery backup, because if you lose your power, which tends to happen in storms, and you get water, which tends to happen in storms, you may be in big trouble, especially something, say, like the furnace or something like that gets wet, because then we're talking tens of thousands of dollars worth of damages over not having the correct sump pump. The other thing to think about when you have a sump pump is if there's a sump pump hole, you want to make sure you have a cover, because that moisture inside that hole is going to condensate and build up in your basement. A lot of people like to hard plumb in their dehumidifiers into their sump pumps, but what they don't realize is a lot of times they're creating standing water in their basement. I highly recommend getting it out. I highly recommend piping it to the outdoors or piping it into a drain to get it away from the property not just pumping it onto the floor, basically. I know it's not going on the floor, but it's going in that sump hole. Get it away from the property. Water can be hazardous. And remember, guys, I'm not a mold professional, but I can tell you when you call to have mold remediated, you want to realize that there's two different types of people in the world. There's one that are actual mold experts, the other one that are contractors. Bring in a mold expert because they're going to find out what's wrong with the property. They're going to figure out how you can stop it in the future, and they're going to make sure they remediate the mold. Well, contractors are allowed to pull out wood that's moldy. They're able to put in different paints and sprays to remediate the mold. What they usually don't do, because they're not certified, is to actually identify the mold and to tell you why it's happening. I hope this helps you during this wet year, and I hope it dries out soon so we can enjoy at least some of this summer. And thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends and family about it. Check out our Facebook group, our newsletter, as well as our blog, where we give lots of free information on buying, selling, and owning a home. And as always, if you need someone to help you in the buying and selling of a home, reach out to us over here at Momentum Realty, and we'd be happy to connect you with one of our Move Mentors, which is what we call our realtors or real estate agents that work here, because we believe they're a mentor and a guide in the process to successfully buying, selling, and owning homes. Thanks again, and have a great week.